Good morning. Thanks for having us.
And I apologize for this voice of mine here. Northwoods Community Realty right here in Tomahawk. There's also an office in Lake Tomahawk to serve that part of the Northwoods area. And couple things here. First of all, Jackie, thanks for the notes here this morning. But I want to go back to the text I got that I shared with Kathy the other day. I said, Jackie texted us and let us know that Township's open book sessions are coming up all across the area. It's a great opportunity to review property assessment and discuss questions or concerns you may have directly with the assessor. Kathy said, well, our transaction's been done for almost a year now. She's still keeping in contact? I said, yeah, that's what Jackie does at Northwoods Community Realty. She was blown away that you're still in contact and concerned about us, so thank you.
Yeah, and we try to reach out several times a year to our past clients, and whether it be, we have the flowers coming up, so we deliver flowers to our past clients. That's coming up in May, at more towards the end of May when we know things aren't going to freeze. So that is coming up, and then we do like the pumpkin giveaway, and we have several events that we have at the office that we invite our past clients to. So we love to keep in touch and make sure that if there's anything we can help with, we're there for you.
First of all, the hanging basket that you gave us at closing, the vines stayed alive almost until the snow was falling, and so we thought this thing doesn't deserve to die, so we kept it alive all winter, and it bloomed purple flowers all winter long, and
really?
It's going back out on the deck right now.
Awesome.
So, that was fantastic. But yes, the fact that you don't just, make the sale and then move on and repeat and rinse and repeat and so on. You stay in contact because people move sometimes more than once, and you never know when that's going to be or what the circumstances are. Staying in touch, it keeps your name right in front of the folks that you dealt with that are happy.
Yeah, and we're happy to keep in touch.
You just don't see that kind of stuff very often. I bought an outdoor one of those. It's what they turn stuff like this, plastic bottles, into lawn chairs. Went up north and bought one of those the other day, and just yesterday got a thank you note in the mail. A handwritten thank you note. Customer service like you have and those kind of, it's kind of old-fashioned. It's nice to see it's still out there somewhere.
Yeah, that's great.
So if you like doing business with that kind of business, Northwoods Community Realty is the place to go. The real notes that you gave me here this morning, the Realtors Government Day, I'm assuming that was in Madison, and you guys participated, so tell us a little bit about what happened.
Yeah, so Samantha and I went down to Government Realtor Day. We've done this the last couple of years. Keith went last year. It's always a great opportunity to meet with other real estate agents throughout the state, and then the governor actually comes and speaks to us, and then we, as real estate agents, talk about things that we feel are important to homeowners like you, and to make sure that we're still advocating for different things to reduce your costs as a homeowner and make home ownership more affordable. That's part of being a realtor. Our job is just not to, sell homes in our local area. It's to advocate you as homeowners to make sure that different things that are going to make it easier for the whole process get our voices heard at Madison. So
it's almost like us homeowners have a lobbying group known as professional real estate people.
The WRA.
Yeah. The WRA is a huge lobbyist in Madison. If anybody wants to look up where as real estate agents we pay to be realtors, and they are very well represented there.
What are some of the specific things? Was there anything specific dealing with our market here? I know you had a chance to talk to Calvin and Mary while you were down there too, or at least representatives. What are some of the things that you bring to our representatives that are elected here as far as the real estate market here goes?
So a couple things that are going on in Madison that we talked about as real estate agents, that we made our voices heard to these representatives on what is important to us, is short-term rentals is a big topic, and your right to have a short-term rental. They are doing different, they're looking at different areas. They put out a survey to the people in Door County and said, okay, if you are not allowed to use your property as a short-term rental, what would you do with it? Would you sell it? Because they feel like a lot of people feel that these short-term rentals are taking homes away from people, and we are at such a home shortage that they're like, well, okay, if we change these rules, will people put these on the market, and that solves some of our housing issues? And that survey told them that no, these people would just hang on to it. They would just leave it vacant. This is just a way for them to make extra money, and they would still hang on to their second home and not sell it. So I think, and I wanted my voice heard on that topic because I have short-term rentals, and I feel like our short-term rentals here are on water, and they're at a price point where it's not a first-time home buyer.
Right.
Price point. If you take away the short-term home rentals, it's just going to keep people from coming to the Northwoods to spend their money. And now you just impacted our whole community economically. It's, people aren't going to stay in that Airbnb and, go to the local restaurants and spend their money here on different activities. And so I just feel like that would impact us economically in the Northwoods, and Door County the same.
Right.
And so these are things that people come up with, these ideas, and sometimes they're just not reality.
But sometimes they're born out of frustration, and all of you in the area, you've probably talked to people that are looking and saying, I hear about all these short-term rentals, and that's why I can't find a house. Let's face it, if you've ever been on Airbnb or VRBO, they're like on the water, nice, big, sometimes huge homes. And like you say, that's really not the market for first-time home buyers. But people are looking for reasons out of frustration and excuses, and so they're easy targets.
Yeah, and there are a couple properties that are off water that could be used as a single-family home, but it's very few.
Right.
And it's not going to impact, 3 homes in Tomahawk is not going to impact our home shortage here by taking away something that is such a economic impact to the community to have these people come. We got rid of all the mom and pop resorts. They sold out. They condoed off. They they sold them to second home people. So we don't have places for people to come and stay. We have a couple hotels, but in the summertime they're packed. So this is a way to have people come and enjoy our beautiful Northwoods, and it has really impacted our community in an economic way. And I just want people to know that that's where realtors stood up and said, we really feel like you should have the right to rent your property. And if you take that away, it's going to economically impact these recreational areas.
It's still a relatively new thing, these short-term rentals anyway. And just like everything else that's come to the Northwoods, when snowmobiles were first introduced, we don't want those loud machines up here wrecking our... And then the ATV thing came, the same kind of thing. But, as some of this stuff starts to... We see the economic benefits of all these things. I mean, my gosh, before snowmobiles, they used to roll up the sidewalks and at the end of Labor Day, and you wouldn't see anybody again until springtime. What we would do with all that, without all that economic stuff that comes in the wintertime. So you just got to kind of accept it for what it is.
Yes.
You'd agree?
I agree, yes.
Accept it for what it is. And, that's just the thing. When you buy a piece of property, you got to work really hard to get that piece of property. Yeah, you should be able to do what you want with it for the most part.
As long as you do it correctly. Each county and township has certain rules for VRBOs. As long as they follow those, they just replaced all the resorts and the campgrounds that we did have that are all gone now. Number-wise, it's probably about the same.
And that's what we're asking for. We're just asking for, leave it up to the local townships and communities to make these rules. And there are very strict rules. The further north you get, the more restrictive they are. Vilas County is way more restrictive than Lincoln County, but they have that much more vacation rentals, so they have that much more problems. So they take the problems and they locally put restrictions on those units, and so that you're not putting restrictions statewide that don't fit. Maybe you do need those restrictions in Madison or Milwaukee, where you are taking housing away.
Right.
But in the Northwoods, let the local communities make those restrictions, and so there you're making it case by case basis, right? It's just not a global. okay, in the state of Wisconsin, we're not going to allow short-term rentals for,
Blanket policies and
Yeah.
generalizations rarely work well.
Right.
There's always issues that'll come up. What else besides short-term rental? That's a big deal. What else was talked about in Madison with the government folks?
So there is another locally impacting rentals, and not short-term rentals, but long-term rentals. There was a judgment that came down that is going to impact landlords, and it was a really bad judge. There was a case that case law is now going to make it so that a landlord gets sued. They could actually have to pay back all of the rent that somebody had paid them times 2, which you can imagine, like if somebody rented from you for 10 years, like all the rent that they've ever paid, you'd
Right.
have to pay it back times 2.
Based on why? On why?
Based on this case that was a judgment.
Okay.
And so, when there's certain cases that come down, and now you've just set a precedence for that case. And so we just wanted to make sure that they need to look at that and make sure that we're protecting people that rent to long-term
Landlords. Right.
landlords. It's a hard job being a landlord, and now you just made it to be not profitable for them. And so we're trying to protect those type of things from happening so that it doesn't make the housing crisis even worse, because these people are going to go, well, I'm not going to rent anymore, I'm just going to sell this. So now we just made the rental market that's already super tight for people that can't afford a mortgage. These people aren't going to want to rent. They're not going to want to take that risk. And financially, it could wreck them, to have to pay back all the rent that somebody has ever paid them. So those are the type of things in Madison. They're trying to keep track of different things that are coming up that could impact very long term.
Look, if landlords right now are saying, wait a second, what is it? Pay back twice to these? We can't go into too much detail, but how can, especially landlords, how can they follow up on that so they can get up to date on what's happening down there in Madison, this precedent that's just been set?
Yeah, I would definitely reach out to your local representatives. And I'll post it on our Facebook page, a little more detail on the different things that we talked about, because you don't have time to go into a lot of detail here. But these are things that are definitely going to impact people. They're also trying to reduce the transfer tax. I don't know. Property values have gone up so much. The transfer tax, they've got this huge amount of money that it's like doubled in the
Okay.
last couple of years. You can imagine the prices of homes have doubled. So that income is huge, and they're just looking to say, okay, do we really need the tax to be this high anymore, because your income off of it is way more than it was intended to be. So they're trying to reduce that for sellers so that when you go to sell, it's not such an impact. It's 0.003% right now, and so they're trying to reduce that amount or increase the amount locally. Maybe it gets to be more local instead of splitting it more in Madison. More the local economics would get that.
Yeah, and just about everything. Local control is usually best because we're here, we know what's going on.
They know what we need in this area.
Right.
Valuations available versus Zestimate. Keith, tell us
Yes.
a little bit about that. Now, Zillow can be a good tool, but
Yep.
it's not the Bible. It's not something that's
Right.
absolute, and it's definitely not local. It's not updated very often. So when it comes to valuations, why is it not necessarily such a good idea to rely just on a place like Zillow?
Well, the Zestimate is it works in a big city, where you drive in those neighborhoods and it's all the same houses.
Sure.
It's easy for Zillow to do an overlook and get an averages and figure out sales, all that stuff. But up here, every property is so different. Zillow, it's not able to understand, okay, 100 feet of frontage on a 22-acre no-wake lake compared to 100 foot of frontage on, say, Lake Nokomis.
Sure.
or Lake Minocqua or, Lake Tomahawk. It's so different. And so Zillow, I don't think, a lot of times his estimate is off.
Yeah.
Because it's not localized. It's just kind of a algorithm that they use, and and it goes off of that. So
the thing I always wondered about is how do they know what improvements have been done
Right.
here?
Yeah.
I mean,
They don't.
they just don't know. So it's
Yeah.
just
it's just
a
kind
guess.
of a guess, exactly.
Yeah.
So if we come out and do an evaluation or a market analysis, then we can hone in on your property, find comparables that match or get as close to that property as possible for a more accurate number.
Have you ever had a situation with a client where you're sitting down talking about the value of a home and they're saying, well, we looked on some of those
Yes.
websites and your information was a little bit different, so who do I believe? And then
Only
how do you deal with
Probably
that?
5 times a month.
Oh, really?
Yeah, because it's out there. Everybody,
Right.
you see this estimate. You scroll down, even houses that are listed, and they'll say, "Well, the estimate's at this much," and you try to explain that they're going purely off your address. There's nothing. They don't know if you totally redid this whole thing.
Sure.
They don't know if your garage caved in last year. You
Right.
know, a lot of stuff like that. It just doesn't take it into effect.
And that brings up the topic of the open books coming up is that Zillow will take your assessed value is what they're doing. They're just taking your assessed value, and sometimes that's way off. So people are like, well, the estimate was really low. Well, maybe your township hasn't been reassessed in 3 years.
Mm-hmm.
Or you just got reassessed last year and you're way over assessed, and now your estimate's magically going to go up. So it is very skewed.
No matter what part of life, if you don't have all the information, you can't make really good decisions.
Correct.
And if you're relying on somebody who you've never met, you don't know who they are, you don't know where they sit and give this information, talk to somebody local. It's a no-brainer.
Yeah, I always ask people, I'm like, when was the last time Zillow was at your house?
Yeah, exactly. Good point.
Yeah.
How's this market looking right now going into spring here? We're going to get inundated with folks here starting today and tomorrow. We're going to probably notice a difference. What about the real estate market? Are we kind of hanging in there? Is it slowing down, speeding up? What do you see?
I think it's picking up, definitely. It's springtime. Spring's finally here. Everybody's busy running around. We're seeing more listings come back on. But as far as like a total seller's market, I think that's kind of cooling off and it's starting to level out.
Okay, more of an even playing field.
More
now.
of an even playing field. We're seeing a lot of offers still on certain properties, and then other properties, no showings.
And why do you think that is? Is it price? Does it really come down to price?
I think price. A lot of people have bought already. It's just leveling back out.
Are you seeing folks like dropping out of the market due to frustration?
I haven't seen that as much.
Okay.
No, because there's still stuff coming on.
Okay.
And people are they're not as frustrated as I'd say 3 years ago, 4 years ago, where there 9-10 offers and cash and over asking and no inspections. Well, we're seeing inspections are pretty much back into play for everything again. More of a normal market. Stuff is on the market now for 30 to 60 days instead of 2.
I can tell you this, as somebody who has just recently bought a home, it wasn't everything we were looking for, but the location was perfect. The house, we figured, well, that's what contractors are for. We just call them. Especially if you're sitting on some equity in the home you're in now.
Right.
If you want to start looking to downsize, upsize, whatever, just to relocate, if you find the location that's good, let the rest fall into place. But don't wait, because chances are somebody's going to beat you to it.
Right.
So what's the best way to get a hold of you at Northwoods Community Realty, Jackie and Keith?
Yeah, you can call our office, 715-453-2673. We are right on the main drag on North 4th Street at 101 West Mohawk Drive, or you can always visit us on the web, northwoodscr.com.
And the the Lake Tomahawk office also. Can people come in like on a Saturday after they get done fishing or before they go fishing, stop in and say, hey, what you got for real estate around here? Is that okay? Somebody in the office on Saturdays?
So on Saturdays, it's usually by appointment, especially this time of year because we're running around showing. But our Lake Tomahawk office, we actually have a gentleman that's there almost all the time. So if anybody wants to stop in, obviously if you see us, we're at the office all the time. Sometimes it's periodically on a Saturday if we happen to be there and stop. If you see a car, stop in and see us.
Now's the time, the springtime, we're all usually showing and running around Saturdays and Sundays and at the office in between.
Hard to go wrong with Northwoods Community Realty, that's for sure. Thank you, too, for being here. Thanks for going to bat for us, too, in Madison every once in a while. That's a reassuring thing, too. So I hope you guys have a great weekend and a great season.